Here we are for another MoonLore, and today we are very happy to be talking about the new moon Sagittarius eclipse. This is a big one. Okay, are you ready, Jenny?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're going to talk about it. And before we dig into the eclipse part, let's just have a quick reminder of the cycles, the lunar cycle, which is the relationship between the sun and the moon. Every 28 days, approximately, they make their little pattern. They start from the new moon, which is what we've got going on here, which is, we traditionally think of the new moon as a time to plant a seed. We kind of equate it to the plant cycle where the new moon is the beginning, and then the full moon 2 weeks later is the full illumination, and then it breaks down. So it's, it's really, the seed gets planted at the first quarter, action is taken to move things forward, then the full, like I said, the illumination, and then at the last quarter, things start to break down, and then we start again at the new moon. So that's kind of the simple down and dirty of what the lunar cycle is about. The eclipse brings in some different ideas. So I'm going to let you talk about the eclipse a little bit, Jenny.
Okay, goody. So what we have is a solar eclipse. So we're at the new moon, so that means we have a solar eclipse. A solar eclipse happens when the sun and the moon and the earth are kind of all in a straight line, essentially. And from our point of view on Earth, it looks like the moon is blocking the sun. So you'll see like maybe the corona of the sun kind of peeking around the edges of the moon, but for all intents and purposes, the moon is blocking it. So it kind of brings in a different symbolism. This isn't our normal new moon where we're like, hey, everybody, let's plant a new seed. This is more concerned with the past and doors that need to be closed and things that you need to release or let go of before that new door can open. Especially with the type of solar eclipse that we have here, we really are thinking about what is showing up from our past that we hadn't paid attention to, that we hadn't noticed before, and then what do we need to do with that? And usually it's really just letting go and surrendering, because as Laurie, you were mentioning before, sometimes these are processes that started a long time ago. So really it's just seeing what comes up, what you can see, and then what do you need to release so that you may indeed start a new cycle sort of after that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's interesting because normally, I really encourage people to do these rituals to plant this seed and to determine what you want to plant, what you want to start at this new cycle. And it's really different with an eclipse. It's really is, you don't want to do that, because by trying to determine where you're going with this new moon, you're blocking the energy that's already in process. And I think of it more as observing, watching, seeing what it is, what the door is that's opening. And like you said, letting things go from the past. But this is there's a very karmic element to these eclipses. And it's funny because, Jenny, you've known me for a long time, and I've railed against eclipses. I tend to do that about things sometimes. And I feel like just in this combination of these two eclipses, because, eclipses come in pairs. And 2 weeks ago, we had the lunar eclipse. And so now we're having the solar eclipse. So in between this period of eclipses, I feel like something around eclipses has really opened up in my thought processes, which is kind of funny. I'm not quite sure why I've resisted it so long. But it's, once it woke up, it's there.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
An interesting thing.
Well, it's been interesting, watching you kind of open up to, to different things. And then over the years, and you've probably witnessed me go through some similar things and like, let's wake up to this or whatever. But what I did want to add with the solar and lunar eclipses here, you can kind of think about the sun as being the present. The sun is this bright, it's this amazing thing that powers our solar system. So in the simplest of terms, the sun is the present moment. And when the moon blocks it, it's like the past is blocking the present. So the
Ooh,
moon symbolizes the past and our mothers and childhoods and all these other things. But that is a really simple way to think about it, is the past is kind of blocking the sun. So what is that block? What is the thing from the past that is kind of blocking your way right now? Your ability to just be present and see the present. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then the other thing is just that this is the final Sagittarius Gemini eclipse. After this, we're going to move into Taurus Scorpio eclipses. So this is the final one of this series.
Yeah.
So,
And what that really says also is, the nodes are shifting into Taurus and Scorpio rather than Sagittarius and Gemini. So that's something to look at in your own chart, is how that nodal axis is shifting.
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So I guess what we need to talk about next a little bit, Laurie, is the fact that it's in Sagittarius. What is the signification of Sagittarius?
Oh, yeah. What do we think about Sagittarius? When I think about Sagittarius, first of all, it's a fire sign. It's a mutable fire sign. So it's got a lot of that fiery kind of energy, but it's also very adaptable and not as dynamic as Aries or as fixed and steady as Leo. It's a lot more adaptable. Sagittarius is a funny sign. It's really about expansion. And I think of a few images come to my mind when I think about Sagittarius. And one of them is that, you think of the centaur letting go of the arrow, and you think about the perspective from the arrow at its highest point. And that's kind of, Sagittarius is always looking for that big perspective, to see the whole picture. The other image that anyone who's worked with me for very long has probably heard me talk about is I could probably let you say it. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Well, okay. So it's the centaur. It's the centaur coming to a crossroad with an arrow pointing in each direction. One direction says enlightenment and one says Gary's party. And there is that element with Sagittarius. It's like they want the big picture. They want the enlightenment, that, there's that seeking of the big perspective. And yet at the same time, there's that desire to just have a good time and let their hair down and all of that good stuff. And if you know people who have a real strong Sagittarius in their chart, you'll see that. You'll see that a lot.
Yeah. And I also, that whole Noel Till thing, the need to have one's opinion respected with the moon in Sagittarius. And I always think of that one as there is definitely some opinions that tend to come with this fire sign. And so I've noticed that. And then the other piece is some of the archetypes, the philosopher and the gypsy, the adventurer, like those kinds of things, explorer. I also like to think of like a little bit of the jester, like that joviality and sense of humor that can come with Sagittarius. But those are some of the other things just to throw in there too.
It's an interesting sign. I should come up with some new stories, since I've
No, it's a great one though. It summarizes it pretty well. So
all right, let's open up the chart and think about some of the aspects that this new moon is making at this moment in time.
Okay. So we have this is the Sagittarius solar eclipse. It's on Saturday, December 4th. And we have it as in Eastern Standard Time at 2:43 a.m. So adjust that for whatever time zone you're in. And actually the eclipse itself happens just a few minutes before that new moon. I think it's at 2:34 a.m. is the eclipse, and then 2:43 is the new moon. So just there's that.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that it doesn't happen at the exact same time?
It is. And I know there's more I could say about it, but I'm not going to.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is if we think about the short cycle, the 28-day cycle, this new moon is the beginning of the cycle that will come into full expression on December 18th at the Gemini full moon. So there's that in thinking about the short cycle. And then if we think about the longer cycle and think about when the Sagittarius full moon will occur on June 14th. So, look for the links of whatever's going on here at this new moon. How does it link to June 14th, 2022? There'll be a link there. Something that begins now, you'll see more fully expressed at that time.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because it is sort of, there's some debate amongst astrologers exactly how to use eclipses and so on, but there's some agreement that generally speaking, the eclipse that's happening now, does have an effect for about the next 6 months until that solar eclipse is complete. So it's extra, has a little extra emphasis in this particular discussion, that 6 month set. So, so definitely think about whatever's happening now and what impact will come to light in June from what's going on now.
And then, as far as aspects go, the most obvious is Mercury is right there with the sun and moon. Where's that? That just brings in conversation. What are you thinking about? Or what's being said?
Yeah, what exactly? There's a lot of emphasis on communication with that.
Yeah.
And also your mindset. What is your mindset going into the solar eclipse? Since we're thinking about internal things, we're thinking about the past and things that you may need to let go of. By definition, you've got to be looking within a bit, and having Mercury in the mix is making a statement about that mindset. And also Mercury, according to ancient astrology, Mercury's not thrilled about being in Sagittarius. So it's a little bit like, okay, here we are in Sagittarius doing the Sagittarius stuff. And it wants to get on with it a little bit. So that kind of adds a couple of things.
And, one of the things it accentuates to me too, is just what you brought up before about the opinions, how those opinions in Sagittarius can be held. There might be something for you to think about. Looking again, when you think about this, I want you to have your chart in whole sign houses in mind. Where is Sagittarius in your chart? Where is this? And we'll get into that when we talk about the individual impacts of this. But with Mercury there, what are you thinking about in that area of your life as well? So that's important. Other than that little conjunction with Mercury, there's not a whole lot going on here. What do we got? We've got a sextile to Saturn.
Yeah, which is nice. I mean, that brings in just a bit of stability, a bit of support for this. And also Saturn, I always think about as being, in a lot of ways, kind of the greatest teacher in the chart. Like it really is sort of in a disciplinarian type of way. And in a sextile, it's sort of saying, you can learn from this. You can find some stability from it. And there's things that it might not be the easiest lesson. It might not be the easiest thing to let go of or whatever, but the structure is there for you to do that.
Yeah, I like that. Just thinking about those opinions again of Sagittarius, the whole idea that, there's some karma attached to this, and you have the ability with that sextile. I always think of sextiles as opportunities. There's the opportunity to get serious and do what needs to be done to clear this path that's opening. Nice. And then the other aspect, and I don't generally bring Chiron into this, but since you've got it on this chart, Jenny, we
I
cannot
do like to bring Chiron into it.
Yeah. Well, I do too, but I've got some buts around it. So that is trining Chiron. What's that saying to you, Jenny?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is it's interesting because part of the whole Chiron myth is, well, Chiron was a centaur. And so you've already brought up the centaur part of Sagittarius. So there is an affinity between the centaur of Chiron and the centaur we're
Mm,
talking about, Sagittarius.
mm,
They both have some similarities, and they both kind of,
wow.
I don't know, bring some interesting mythological sense, because the centaur is half man, half beast, or half horse. So just kind of, it throws in a little bit of an interesting mythical element.
I
Um,
hadn't even thought of
but
that. Thank you so much for bringing that in. That's awesome.
yeah. So I mean, and the other thing about Chiron was a teacher. Chiron taught a lot of the sort of heroes like how to deal basically. So what we see with Chiron is the archetype of the wounded healer,
Mhm.
but also the ability to heal with that. So it's a wound we come in with that we need to work with and kind of wrestle with, so that we may help others heal in that same capacity.
That's great.
A little
That's
bit
great.
about it.
So yeah, the trine aspect, whereas, when we talked about the sextile to Saturn, that sextile is about an opportunity. A trine is like a gift. It's just
Mhm.
there. It's sort of what I think of when I look at this is you've got the opportunity. If you take that opportunity, there's a real gift of healing here.
Yeah,
There's a,
absolutely.
yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
really lovely.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
lovely.
I mean, and I just can't help but think with the solar eclipse, and the way that solar eclipse is near the south node, especially, it just highlights the idea of this past, this karmic thing, this something that needs to be released from lifetime. So
Mm.
this is really in that way, as an opportunity to release something, to surrender to something that was set in motion a long time ago.
Yeah,
And that's really what this is a statement of, and to
yeah,
sort of trust that there's going to be healing if you're able to do that.
right, right. That's
Yeah.
great. I love that. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else before we jump into the individual pieces?
Like 12 other things, but let's not. But
Yeah.
I think we've covered the basics of the eclipse and what to be thinking about. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
let's
so
do
as
the.
well. Okay, so you want to close that down, that image down, and we can think about the individual impacts. Okay,
Okay.
so um, if you've got Aries rising, this is going to be happening in your ninth house. And
Hmm.
the way I've been thinking about it is, okay, because we're not going to be doing the rituals, we're not going to be doing a ritual of planting a seed. We're doing a ritual instead, you know, of just keeping our eyes open, seeing what door opens,
Hmm.
and stepping through it. We may
I
need
like that.
to sweep something off the pathway first and then step forward into the door that opens. So if you've got Aries rising, this is really about offering, looking for the path that's opening, that's around expanding your own wisdom to be teaching others. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I think is, if you've got Aries rising, what do you have to teach others? And how can you just allow that?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
what other thoughts do you have about that one?
Well, my kind of tactic in approaching this was thinking about what things you need to let go of, like what kinds of things. So my sort of let go of was any closed-minded attitudes that you're noticing,
Oh, that's
um,
great.
that pop up. And I love what you said about the doorway, that this is showing you a doorway, because eclipses reveal hidden doorways.
Yeah.
So what are the things that are a little bit out of your view? So asking yourself that question: do I have attitudes that are holding me back, that are somewhat closed-minded?
Right. Well, it's so interesting because I sort of, you approach this as from the perspective of what are we letting go of? I approached it as what's the door that's open that we're moving into? So maybe it would work better if you first said what you think is letting go of, and then I pick it up from there. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, so
Give it a
what
whirl.
about for Taurus? Let's give it a
All
whirl.
right. So with Taurus, we are looking at the eighth house. That Sagittarius falls in the eighth house. And the thing that we might consider letting go of is the tendency to get over involved with other people's stuff, to be
Ah.
overly stuck in it. That's what I suggested.
Wow, I think this is great. We should pull our two things together. It's
Okay.
perfect. Because, the way I was thinking of it was that the door that's opening, the path that's opening is offering you the wisdom to use ritual to navigate the boundaries between yourself and others.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Just I was thinking of the getting over involved as maybe being like
Yeah,
overly opinionated of somebody else's stuff. And it's
yeah,
like, just, you don't have to.
right. Right. And
Yeah.
and navigating the boundaries is part of that.
Yeah.
That's so
Okay.
interesting. I love that. Okay, how about Gemini?
So Gemini, the Sagittarius solar eclipse is going to fall in the 7th house of partnerships. So this is consider letting go of the need to be right,
Mm.
in order to find balance in your partnerships.
Oh, okay. And I talked about, slowing down and observing as the path opens before you, the path being renewing exploration with your intimate partners. You're being called to share a journey ahead.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Open the door, go share a journey with your
Yeah.
partner.
And
That's it.
yeah, you don't have to be right.
Right. You don't have to be right. You
Yeah.
just can enjoy the process. Yeah. You don't have to be right. I
Yes.
love that. That's great.
So with Cancer rising, we're talking about the 6th house here of routines and practices and habits, and also the house of self-improvement. So it's consider letting go of expired or mindless habits,
Ah,
in order
nice.
to make way for something new.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Slow down and observe a path that's asking you to embrace a joyful and expansive understanding of those habits.
Hmm,
Your health and vitality will grow as you step onto that,
hmm,
through that new open door.
nice. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if you have Leo rising, we're looking at the 5th house of creativity and children and playfulness. And this might be something like the thing you might need to let go of is the need to be overly dramatic and kind of take things over and be center stage, because that might get in the way of your ability to just be playful, simply playful, and have fun with others and be a little more sharing.
That's lovely. Okay. So the new path offers new experiences, exploration, fun, love, and creativity blossom as you answer the new call to adventure.
Hmm, nice. Love it.
Nice. I want that for a
I
rising
know.
sign.
Well, you got enough Leo as it is. All right.
Oh dear. I guess.
Let's see, Virgo. So if you have Virgo rising, that means that this is going to land in your 4th house. So the 4th house, family, lineage, ancestors, that kind of thing. So I was thinking about consider letting go of your frustrations or aggravations of family members so that you can be more present.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And I talked about the path opening as involving exploring the wisdom within your family roots. Possibly thinking about there being an ancestor or a family member that can teach you something about a more optimistic view of the future.
Hmm,
That's
nice.
nice. Yeah.
Great. So if you have Libra rising, this is going to fall in your 3rd house. 3rd house is communication, your immediate environment, like things, your kind of day-to-day logistical life, like errands and things like that. So with that said, it's time to let go of that frenetic busyness
Hmm.
that you might get attached to in order to take a step back and breathe deeply and communicate more kindly.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So, and the path to let go of that frenetic conversation is to engage in conversations of a deeper, more philosophical, maybe not deeper. Deeper might be a trick word there, but of a more philosophical nature. Your ability to use your voice to express wide-ranging wisdom will expand as you step
Hmm,
through that door.
awesome. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So with Scorpio rising, we're looking at the 2nd house, the 2nd house of money and values and self-worth, and just the place where you look at what resources you have. So in this situation, consider letting go of any negative self-talk or self-deprecating attitudes in order to celebrate your true self-worth, which is kind of the cornerstone of all the other pieces of the second house. Oh.
Nice. Nice. So I was thinking of it in terms of, the path that's opening requires you to understand the wisdom and the meaning of money and resources and how that supports your self-worth and your your ability to have what you desire expands as you step onto that path. Nice.
All right. We'll see. So if you have Sagittarius rising, well, this is falling in your first house, which is all about the self, and sort of the beginnings, the beginnings of the whole cycle. And when you think about the self, that's not only your true self, like deep inner self, but also the image you project out to other people, and also what self-development that you're sort of undergoing. And some of that might be letting go of the need to just be super attached to your own opinion. So that's basically what I wrote.
Yeah. And I talked about it as bringing freedom and optimistic self-expression, just allowing yourself to step into an ability to be more optimistic in your self-expression, and that you're learning to show the world your own expansive wisdom.
Great. Love it.
I like how these kind of connect in a really interesting way. I like this.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I feel like we're putting together a puzzle.
Yeah, no, I'll put the piece down.
Right.
So Capricorn rising means that this Sagittarian eclipse is falling in your 12th house. So the 12th house is always the one that's a bit tricky to talk about. It's behind the scenes. It's that which is hidden. It's sort of sequestered away from the rest of society in a way. And it's also the place where suffering can arise. So I was thinking here about considering letting go of false optimism in order to allow suffering to teach you about compassion, because that's really the purpose for all of it, is that compassion.
Awesome.
And so
I really like how you said that. I was thinking in terms of this path that is opening to reveal secrets within your own unconscious.
Nice.
That, and it's about opening a door to an expansive hidden nature, and that, you're able to find gifts hidden within the mystery of symbols. I love thinking of the 12th house as the house that really reveals the meaning behind symbols, symbolic languages, which astrology is certainly a symbolic language.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really cool. Let's see. So we are on Aquarius, and that means that the Sagittarius eclipse is going to fall in your 11th house of groups and friendships and community. And what's the other ones? Hopes and aspirations, but also the way you receive love. So I was thinking about the thing that might be blocking your way is something that's blocking you from your ability to receive love. So I was considering letting go of what that is. It could be maybe an overindulgence. It could be, there's other things it could be, but just what is that that's kind of blocking your way?
Interesting. I was thinking the path that opens is leading to finding that philosophical, like-minded community that's going to support your desires to provide love for you as you move forward. So allowing yourself to receive that from community. Along those lines.
Excellent. And then we have Pisces. So Pisces, we're looking at the 10th house, and Sagittarius is in your 10th house. I've written something here about considering letting go of being the hero at work, like the Sagittarian hero, in order to bring more levity and wisdom to your vocation.
That's awesome. And I'm thinking of, slow down, observe the path that's opening. The path that opens leads to more independence and joy connected to your career or reputation. Step on to this journey with gratitude. So
Lovely.
that covers all of them. I really like how we both approached it from a slightly different perspective, and it brings it together because we're letting go of something in order to be able to step on that path forward that the eclipse is presenting to us from some place of our own inner karma.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, and so just think about, what is being revealed to you this time. It's more of a
Yeah.
witness place than rather having to roll up your sleeves and do something.
Yeah.
It's much more just step back and see what comes to light and adopt an attitude of wanting to release or let go of something.
I think it's this period of time between these two eclipses just really does feel very energized and very important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, keeping our eyes open. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think we've covered a lot of, this topic. There's certainly some interesting things coming ahead. So, and we are hoping to be making some more recordings about some of those.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know I'm being very vague and cryptic, but you'll just have to wait and see what comes out. But there's definitely some cool astrology coming up. So
Yeah,
we'll
definitely. Okay. Well, in that case, Jenny, let's just say, where can we find you? If I want a consultation with you, where do I find you?
please go to hiddenpathastrology.com. You can book consultations through there. And what about you, Laurie?
You do some teaching also. I just want to
Oh yeah, thank you.
make sure people know that. Okay.
I do teach, I do consultations, and also you can find my blog on Facebook and also Instagram. So
great. And you can find me at astrolore.org, not .com, but .org. And yeah, I do consultations. I'm doing a lot more with these recorded consultations lately, which I love because not everybody wants to sit and look at my face while I talk to them. But I can just do a recording from your birth information and send that out. People seem to like those, so that's fun.
cool.
So thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and we'll do it again soon.
Thank you all. Thanks, Laurie.
Bye-bye, Jenny.
Bye.